says you the one put the hit on your son so you and Wallow can get that $100 million. I ain't sacrificing my boy for no $100 million. I don't want that much money, no way. I don't want that much goddamn money. No way, Gillie and Wallow, where we gotta kill nephew and son. I don't know who idea was it for you to sacrifice your son.
What started as a debate about football spiraled into something far darker, a clash of egos, pain, and personal tragedy. Cam Newton gave his opinion on Jalen Hurts. Gillie fired back, and suddenly Charleston White forced himself into the mix. But instead of sticking to jokes or criticism, Charleston crossed a line many people believe you should never cross. He mocked the loss of Gillie's son, and he did it after apologizing once before.
I know I'm wrong. So I ain't gonna know I'm wrong and continue to be wrong as a man. Gillie, I apologize, my nigga. Yeah, I know I'm wrong. I told y'all, and it didn't feel good. But because I felt like he hurt me, hurt people. But I ain't hurt, man. I got a birthday, I'm blessed. Yeah, for me to keep getting the blessings and not block my blessings, I'm making a public apology, no matter if you accept it or not. I ask for your forgiveness.
This wasn't just another viral back and forth. This was disrespect at the highest level, the kind of wound you can't laugh off. And the internet immediately lit up because everyone knew there was no walking back from this one. At the root of it all was something harmless. Cam Newton giving his take on Jalen Hurts. Cam, a former NFL MVP and Super Bowl quarterback, knows the game inside out. He pointed out that Hurts benefits from an almost perfect setup, a strong offensive line, elite wide receivers, a stacked defense. Cam's point was simple: Hurts is good, but the Eagles roster makes him look even better. That should have been the end of it. Sports debate, nothing more. But Gillie didn't take it that way. As a Philly native, Gillie has been one of Hurts' biggest defenders, praising his leadership and toughness. So when Cam questioned Hurts' greatness, Gillie saw it as disrespect to his city and disrespect to Hurts himself. Gillie clapped back hard. He accused Cam of being jealous, of being bitter that he never won a Super Bowl himself. To Gillie, Cam was a fallen star taking shots at a young quarterback who had already accomplished what Cam couldn't. Cam wasn't about to let that slide. He fired back at Gillie's music career, calling it a flop, pointing out that Gillie only gained real fame after pivoting to podcasting. And just like that, the tension jumped from sports commentary to personal insult. If you know Gillie, you know roasting is his superpower. On $1 million worth of game, he and Wallow have built a platform around raw, unfiltered banter. So when Cam opened the door, Gillie walked right in. He mocked Cam's outfits, those loud suits, the oversized hats, the scarves, calling him the fashion fool of the NFL. He questioned Cam's leadership, his time in New England, his late career struggles, and he did it with the kind of comedic timing that makes his audience roar. But in the middle of torching Cam, Gillie decided to aim at someone else, Charleston White. He criticized Cam for interviewing Charleston, calling White a clown who didn't deserve a platform. It was almost a throwaway jab, but with Charleston White, even a side comment is enough to set off an explosion. Charleston White is one of those figures you can't ignore. He built his entire persona on shock value, saying the most outrageous, offensive things possible and daring people to react. To his supporters, he's telling uncomfortable truths and forcing conversations others avoid. To his critics, he's nothing more than an opportunist who exploits trauma and culture for clicks. His rise to fame wasn't traditional. He didn't come from music, sports, or acting. Instead, he carved out a niche by stirring the pot in interviews, clowning rappers, mocking street culture, and leaning into controversy at every turn. The formula worked. Every viral rant meant more attention, more bookings, more money. And Charleston knows the rules of this game better than anyone. The harsher the insult, the louder the reaction. He said it himself: if people aren't angry, they're not watching. That's why he constantly pushes past the limits of decency. So when Gillie threw a jab, even a small one, Charleston saw an opportunity. Instead of brushing it off, he went nuclear. He didn't just insult Gillie, he went after the deepest pain in Gillie's life. Mocking the death of his son, cheese. What made it worse is that this wasn't even the first time. Months earlier, Charleston had already crossed that line, then offered an apology. Many thought that showed at least some awareness, maybe even growth. But when Gillie mentioned him again, Charleston ripped that apology to shreds and doubled down. He laughed about the tragedy. He sneered that it was better Gillie lost his son instead of him. He took something sacred, the bond between a father and child, and twisted it into a cruel punchline. For Charleston, it was just another viral moment. For Gillie, it was salt in a wound that never healed. And that's the dangerous thing about Charleston's playbook. He doesn't just argue, he desecrates. He doesn't just roast, he cuts to the bone. And in this case, he may have gone further than anyone can forgive. The response was immediate. YouTube lit up with reactions, TikTok clips spread the rant everywhere, and Twitter debates raged. Even people who usually defend Charleston's shock jock persona said he had crossed the line. For many viewers, there are rules in roasting. You can talk about careers, clothes, even personal habits. But mocking a dead child? That's untouchable. Even the hardest comedians and battle rappers usually stay away from that level of disrespect. Cam Newton, meanwhile, seemed almost forgotten in the chaos. What began as his critique of Jalen Hurts had been swallowed whole by Charleston's comments. Suddenly, the Cam versus Gillie beef looked tame compared to the firestorm Charleston had created. Gillie didn't hold back either. His reaction showed pure anger and grief. For him, this wasn't entertainment. It wasn't internet games. It was someone desecrating the memory of his son for clout. So why did this particular exchange strike such a nerve? Because it wasn't about ego or competition. It was about real-life pain. When Gillie lost cheese, it wasn't a headline. It was his family being torn apart. Parents aren't supposed to bury their kids, and that pain never fully goes away. Every holiday, every birthday, every milestone is a reminder of what's missing. Charleston didn't just ignore that pain, he weaponized it. He turned the deepest wound in Gillie's life into a punchline. Not once, but twice. That's why so many people say this feud feels irreversible. You can forgive an insult about your career. You can laugh off someone mocking your fashion. But you can't forget when somebody laughs about your child's death. And Charleston knows it. He's admitted before that he aims for the lowest blows possible, because that's what generates attention. To him, controversy equals relevance. But there's a cost. And in this case, the cost may be a grudge that lasts forever. On the surface, this might look like just another celebrity back and forth, words thrown around on podcasts, clips going viral on Instagram, YouTube channels racing to upload their reactions. But this isn't your typical he said, she said feud. The stakes here are much bigger and much darker. First, let's talk about Charleston White's side. His entire business model depends on conflict. The harsher his words, the more people click. He's monetized outrage. Every time he says something disrespectful, every time he crosses a moral line, people share it. It doesn't matter if it's disgust or disbelief. Views are views. And Charleston cashes in. He thrives on the attention because even hate turns into dollars. Now look at Gillie. He's not just a rapper turned podcaster. He's a father who's grieving in real time. His son's death isn't internet fodder. It's something he has to wake up to every single day. For Charleston to exploit that wound twice, it's not just content, it's cruelty. And that cruelty has a cost because Gillie isn't the type to let something like this slide forever. Then there's the audience, us, the viewers. As much as people condemn Charleston's words, the reality is that millions are watching, commenting, debating. Outrage fuels the algorithm, and the more people talk about how disgusting Charleston is, the more the platforms reward him with visibility. It's a vicious cycle. The more offensive he gets, the more viral he becomes. And here's the dangerous truth. When someone's pain becomes someone else's profit, there's almost no incentive to stop. Charleston has no reason to tone it down. In fact, he has every reason to keep going. Meanwhile, Gillie is left with two choices: ignore the disrespect and look weak in the public eye, or respond and risk escalating into something that can't be taken back. That's why this beef feels heavier than most. It's not just reputations on the line. It's not just about clout. This is about a man's grief being turned into entertainment. And when you mix personal trauma with public humiliation, the consequences can spill out of the digital world into real life very quickly. Right now, there are 3 possible directions. Option 1, Charleston keeps going. He knows people are watching and controversy fuels him. He might escalate with more cruel comments just to keep the spotlight. Option 2, Gillie responds with more than words. And that's the scenario people fear most, because grief plus anger is unpredictable. If they ever cross paths in real life, nobody expects it to stay peaceful. Option 3, the internet moves on. Clout-driven beefs burn hot and fast, and another controversy could distract everyone. But unlike other spats, this one isn't easily forgotten. The wound Charleston reopened won't close just because the algorithm changes. Either way, this feels like more than just another viral feud. It feels like a powder keg. At the end of the day, what started as a simple sports debate spiraled into something much darker. A conversation about Jalen Hurts and Cam Newton's legacy somehow opened the door for Gillie to take a jab at Charleston White. And that one jab was all Charleston needed to unleash one of the most vicious tirades we've ever heard online. It's a reminder of how fragile these internet dynamics really are. 1 minute, you're debating quarterbacks. Next, you're in a blood feud that drags families, grief, and personal pain into the spotlight. And once that door is opened, you can't close it. The words are out there forever. For Gillie, this isn't just internet beef. It's personal. Losing his son, Cheese, is a wound that will never fully heal. Every time Charleston throws that tragedy in his face, it rips the bandage off. It's not entertainment. It's not just content. It's salt poured directly into an open wound. And if you know Gillie's history, his loyalty, his pride, his street background, you know he's not wired to just laugh it off. For Charleston, this is business as usual. The harsher the insult, the bigger the reaction. The bigger the reaction, the more views. He's not thinking about healing or compassion. He's thinking about algorithms, clout, and keeping his name trending. In his eyes, if people are mad, that means he's doing something right. But the real question is, at what cost? At what point does content cross the line into cruelty? And how many people are willing to admit that even as they condemn Charleston, they're still giving him exactly what he wants by watching, sharing, and reacting? This situation is bigger than just Gillie and Charleston White. It's about the culture we've created online. A culture where trauma is currency, where disrespect gets rewarded, and where grief can be turned into a punchline if it makes people click. It's about a system that incentivizes going too far, because too far is what goes viral. And if this feud ever spills into the real world, if Gillie and Charleston cross paths, it won't just be another headline, it'll be a tragedy that could have been avoided. That's why so many people watching this aren't just entertained, they're worried. Because sometimes words don't just live on the internet. Sometimes words light fires that can't be put out. So here's the final takeaway. This is bigger than sports, bigger than rap, bigger than YouTube beef. This is about respect, grief, and the way we handle each other's humanity. Charleston may feel untouchable behind the camera, but there's always a breaking point. And when you push a grieving father past that point, you're no longer just debating, you're playing with fire. The question is, when the smoke clears, who's really going to win? And more importantly, how many people are going to lose?